Falling Down, The Boy in the Iron Box, Book 1, by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. The aircraft shuddered, keeling clockwise on its axis, veering violently upward. The pilot overcorrected a lung-emptying maneuver, and a pair of headphones pinwheeled down the jet's carpeted center aisle, smashing against the rear wall. The fuselage uttered in protest. Everything shook. They were a kite in the storm. Liev twisted around to eye the other operators, exchanging a concerned but subtle glance with Oleg, his taciturn second in command. Liev took a long drink from his steel water bottle, unable to keep some from spilling, running rivulets to the floor. Cases of weapons and military equipment jostled under safety straps, but so far remained secured. The jet lurched again, this time dropping forcefully, dangerous navigation on a low-altitude flight. Liev, in a rear-facing seat, could not see the pilots on the flight deck, but imagined them fighting the controls while trying to project an air of calm. That was what he would do. The 10-passenger Cessna Citation was flying black, skirting beneath the radar inside Chinese airspace, tracing the snow-covered peaks of the glacial northern Tianshan Mountains. They were hurdling summits so high and remote, many had never been named. Satellite navigation was off, no flight recorder, distress beacon deactivated. Every man on board knew this. 10 operators kitted out in military camouflage, without name tags or any visible sign of rank. Mercenaries heading for an unsanctioned Black Ops mission aboard a luxury jet flying dark. Hard men with chiseled faces, stoic when accustomed to danger but unaccustomed to fear. I'm telling you, Putin's compromised. China has him in their pocket, all part of the plan. The voice belonged to Ava, sitting somewhere behind him, a large, slick-looking, gym-sculpted mercenary who, along with his brother Timur, the two youngest on the team, had an uncanny gift for getting on Liev's nerves. Do me a favor, said Liev. Don't talk like that around me. I'm talking about it with my brother, said Ava. Just helping him to see the big picture. And it all comes back to CV, said Timur. Damn right it does. I'll show you. Ugh. What? Said Timur, startled, appropriately nervous about the turbulent flight. It's in the tail. I can't get it, but this medicine I carry... Ava, said Liev, feeling argumentative because it took his mind off the flight. That's not medicine. Colloidal silver cures everything, said Ava. It turns you blue, said Radomir, a bear of a man, the team sapper, an explosives expert who had little patience for such prattle. Tell him, doctor! Daniel, the unit medic, was not a licensed doctor, but nobody knew more about battlefield medicine. The top of his left ear had been blown off a decade earlier in Chechnya, and a patch of scalp above it grew no hair. He and Liev had been trusted acquaintances for many years. If it cures everything, Daniel said, why can't it cure you from turning blue? All the great civilizations knew it, continued Ava over their cynicism and the rattling of the aircraft undercharge. The Greeks knew it, Egyptians knew it, Silver comes drones, it's antibacterial, antiviral. You take it in small doses. Timur, did I get COVID? We'll never know, said Timur, because you don't test, because you don't trust the test. Liev started to smile, but then came another violent lurch, and water splattered his hand and wrist. A few drops landed on the face of his timepiece, a rugged Breitling he had taken off a murdered arms dealer 3 or 4 missions ago. Its blue dial had a compass feature, and he watched the direction rotate back and forth, swinging several degrees on either side of true north. Out the window, shifting through the swirling greenness of the late-day blizzard, he saw they were low over the rock of a vast massif. Too low and much too close. His jaw tightened as he wheeled the jet skyward. My Zhagzhongshili Tovarishi. Ava's voice again. We're done for, comrades. Liev snarled at the sentiment, but then the jet surged upward, turbines roaring to surmount the peak ahead. A wind shear slapped the underside, and the jet tilted like a car on 2 wheels. Impact jerked Liev forward, a fearsome grinding sound, a jutting blade of granite tearing into the bottom of the fuselage, gutting the jet like a fish. The right wing snagged on the rock peak, torquing the aircraft a quarter turn. The wing pulled off the side of the aircraft, hanging, broken. Freezing air and numbing snow exploded into the cabin at the breach. Liev fought to look behind him, turning his head in time to see a pair of back-to-back leather seats, each with a man strapped to it, sucked out of the Cessna into the talcum-fine snow. The wounded bird soared a moment nearly sideways and most unnaturally. Men were yelling, but no words could be discerned. Liev turned back to his window, finding to his dismay that he now had the front view, the pilot's vantage, the aircraft having rotated 90 degrees. They just cleared the peak. They were hurtling downward now, a weightless plunge. Things slowed in a suspended moment, and in that instant of unique focus, Liev saw tipping into view a clearing of pure white below them, a human-made structure. He caught only a glimpse during a lull in the grey-out conditions. Circular stone walls arranged concentrically around a dark central edifice. His training made him glance down at his wrist, getting a compass reading just before the needle, and the jet again started to spin. The cabin corkscrewed wildly, gathering speed, everything blurring. Then the jet slammed down onto its snow-covered slope, thrown like a child's toy. The intact wing sank deep, raising a massive plume of snow, whipping the torn fuselage into a semicircular skid. Death was certain now, inevitable. No time for final thoughts, no prayers, no regrets, no wishes. Before Liev could even summon an image of his young son, impact and darkness. The shrieking reached Liev as if from far away, nagging at him, stirring him, pulling him to unconsciousness. An onboard alarm, a piercing whistle, everything black. Liev found his seatbelt clasp and released it. All senses were gone or dulled. On all fours he crawled until he felt cold, soft powder. He followed the powder up to the sharply edged, jagged fuselage where the jet's middle height had been torn open. Pure instinct and a primal desire for air and escape made him shovel and dig with his bare hands. The snow shifted, offering no hope. His foot struck metal, perhaps a piece of the broken wing, and he pushed up forward, clawing at the crystalline snow and shoving it behind him. He recognized a warm, salty taste in his tongue. Blood, it would turn out, that was not his own, but the prospect of having suffered a severe injury propelled him even more quickly to the surface. "Freezing, whipping air!" Liev gasped desperately, gulping in the open space. He pawed his face and body, checking his extremities, his hands becoming smeared with blood, but he was intact. He looked around in the lashing wind, snowing fuel. The tall tail of the Cessna rose out of the snow. The wall of stone the nose of the jet had struck loomed high overhead, sheer and craggy, topped by a thick crust of snow hanging over the crash site like the brim of a white beret. Some of the snow had shaken loose upon impact, falling on the jet, burying the fuselage. The rest could come down at any moment, enshrouding the jet beyond reach. Another figure rose behind him, coughing. Bogdan, the blue-eyed sniper, surfaced with the same sweet relief before collapsing on his elbows in the snow and spitting blood. Radomir came next. Disoriented, he pulls his hulking mass out of the tunnel and looked around frantically before locking eyes with Liev. A layer of snow was clumped around Radomir's beard, the whitest stark contrast to the blood streaks on his face. A veil of steam rising out of his collar, body heat condensing upon impact with the freezing air, formed around his head like a halo. They were alive. Maybe the others were too. Liev plucked a loop-holstered flashlight off Radomir's camo vest and went back down the short snow tunnel they had burrowed out from the ripped, open side of the jet. With the alarm still shrieking, he turned in the direction of the cockpit first. The aircraft's frame creaked under the weight of the fallen snow. The thin door to the cockpit was broken, and with a minimum of twisting and pulling, Liev yanked it off his hinges. The flight deck was a horror. The pilot and co-pilot had been pulverized upon impact, their white fur-lined seats soaked red. The front windshields were gone, the nose having collapsed, the instrument panels crushed, dark. The rest was buried in pink-red snow. As he turned back to the main cabin, two more men arose, the brothers Tmurnov, the first-timers with Liev's team. Daniil had also came to, rising from his seat. All three had, like Liev, been seated facing the rear of the jet, and had fared better than the others. Liev found Oleg and smacked his cheek to wake him up, and his second-in-command came to screaming. Not until Liev and Daniil hauled him out of his seat did they notice his right forearm dangling at an unnatural angle at his side. With Bogdan and Radomir's help from above, they got Oleg up to the surface. Daniil grabbed Liev's flashlight and quickly assessed Oleg's condition before returning to the groaning cabin for his medical kit. No one spoke in the howling wind. Liev did a head count. Yuri, the blonde-headed interpreter, had climbed out while Liev was in the cockpit. That made 8. Anatoly and Vitaly had been sucked from the plane after the initial damage to the fuselage. They weren't coming back. The pilots are dead, Liev announced. Bogdan was still wiping his face. Is that whose blood is on me? Daniil came back up with his kit. The two men held Oleg down in the snow while the medic cut around the wounded man's coat sleeve. It turned out that the only thing structuring Oleg's limb had been the fabric itself. The bones of his elbow had been ground down, and his flesh was twisted and torn, liberally spilling blood. "We need to make quick work of this," he said. He ordered everyone except Daniil and Bogdan back inside the downed jet. "Weapons, equipment, supplies, anything useful you could salvage from the rear cargo hold," Eva said. "Where are we going?" "Just do it, said Liev, "and fast." They went down. Daniil had prepped a windlass tourniquet, and Bogdan was holding Oleg against the packed snow, securing his shoulders so he couldn't thrash. The medic needed a third pair of hands. Liev had Daniil in action on various battlefields, and he had never known him to lose composure, so his steady command here came as no surprise. "What do you need from me?" asked Liev. "Rip open his shirt," said Daniil. Oleg clamped shut his eyes and Liev toward the blood-soaked sleeve, the rough movement inducing a scream and a plume of steam from Oleg's clenched teeth. Ripping the shirt open, it exposed clean intact flesh and bone above the biceps. Daniil looped the windlass's plastic strap over Oleg's shattered arm with a nod to Liev, and then covered Oleg's mouth with his hand. Daniil cinched it tight a few inches above the wound. By the time the others hauled out what they could, the bleeding slowed. Daniil loosely draped what remained of Oleg's sleeve over the gaping wound, then produced a miniature injection syringe pre-filled with morphine. He thumbed off the safety wedge and plugged the short needle into Oleg's shoulder. Oleg locked eyes with the medic, gripping him with his good arm. "It's gone, isn't it?" said Oleg through tears of pain. "My arm. Gone." He was out before Daniil had to confirm his fear. "What do you think?" said Liev. Daniil closed his kit. "I have to amputate and cauterize immediately. I can't do anything about the blood loss. I don't see that we have any choice. I'll have to convert the interior of the plane into an operating theater." Liev interrupted. "We do have one other choice." Daniil's eyebrows peaked. Liev, Daniil, and Oleg had deployed together many times, first at Spetsnaz, and now as mercenaries, and they knew each other to be men of few words. "Do you know of a doctor's office nearby?" Liev turned so as to include the rest as they resurfaced. "I saw something from the jet just after the first impact, a structure made by human hands, maybe 2 clicks back." He consulted his rich watch and pointed southeast. "That way." Daniil said, "There can't be any human settlements for 100 kilometers or more. Nothing there." "I'm telling you what I saw. We've got maybe 90 minutes before nightfall, 90 minutes before total darkness and a sharp drop in temperature, and perhaps the worst night of our lives. Cover up Oleg and grab what you can. We'll inventory it when we get there." The others had questions they did not ask, trained as they were to observe the hierarchy of rank, especially in a time of great duress. The other, Radomir said, "How do we carry Oleg?" They thought a moment. "Pack up," he said. "Bogdan, give me a hand." Back down into the cabin they went. Liev pointed out the dented cockpit doors sheened in blood. Bogdan stopped him before they attempted to hail it out. "You sure you saw something out there?" he asked. Liev nodded. "If I'm wrong," he added, "what do we have to lose anyway?" Another metallic groan, the fuselage clumping around them like an aluminum can. Radomir appeared between them, having retrieved the antique Spetsnaz machete he always kept in his kit. It was an old-fashioned multi-tool with a serrated long edge, an axe-shaped end, and a carved underside for chopping. He stepped forward and dug the axe blade under the hinge, ripping the damaged door from its frame. They widened the snow tunnel and pushed the warped door to the surface. Radomir effortlessly lifted the unconscious Oleg, laying him gently on it, from the lashed around his waist with canvas strips cut from the cargo hold. Bogdan volunteered to help Radomir tow the makeshift stretcher sled, and the others geared up. "The radio!" said Liev, having almost forgotten. "Right here," said Timur, holding up the metal case containing the shortwave unit. "Good, don't lose that. If we have to have any chance getting off this mountain, that radio is our only hope." As they trudged through the knee to waist-high snow, Liev assessed their situation. They would be registered as overdue when they missed their next check-in, but they had flown dark and had been certainly blown off their course in the sudden storm. The missions, arms smuggling and black ice destabilization in and out in 72 hours, was completed in total radio silence for reasons of deniability. Their flight plans simply didn't exist. No one would automatically come searching for them. Once settled, Liev would use the number station to relay their approximate coordinates, but the communication itself could only take days, never mind any rescue effort. They had only a limited amount of rations, batteries, and ammunition. Liev led them to a dense patch of forest which shielded them somewhat from knifing winds. The snow was not so deep there, but the ground was rocky and uneven. The dark shade gave them a preview of the long night ahead. Liev's feet were already numb. He could barely feel them now, his face frozen, his gloved hands sore. But he had recalled seeing a grove of trees near the site, and he hoped they were close. But the forest kept going, silent and dark. The pines eclipsed the stormy sky above, the trunks buffering the wind into a low pitch like a hum. The strange, dense calm of the forest was as ominous as the storm that had taken them down. At the far edge of the tree cover before the clearing, they rested for 2 minutes. Medic Daniel and blonde interpreter Yuri relieved the bigger man towing Oleg's door sled. The brothers Ava and Timur sat on either side of the bristly tree trunk to rest, their movements shaking a considerable amount of snow and frozen needles from the parched branches under their shoulders and heads. Radomir snickered at their misfortune. Bogdan would merely shake his head. "Are we close?" asked Bogdan. "I think," Lev, stepping out into the daylight and checking his compass heading. They were on track but racing the night. He was about to call on them to continue when he spotted movement in his peripheral vision. Years of field combat and special operations had taught him, do not overreact. He noticed dark shapes on either side moving low and stealthily through the camouflaging snow. He turned back to his team, resting at the edge of the forest. "Comrades," he said, drawing his pistol from his holster. "We have company." Bogdan was the first to step beyond the tree cover, the ice-eyed sniper scanning the snowscape ahead. The brothers jumped to their feet, folding their AK-74s, more accurate and reliable than their better-known predecessor, the AK-47 alarm. "Wolves," said Lev, stirred by the noise of the crash, no doubt, and they could smell Oleg's blood on the wind. The others saw the mass shadows moving eerie and soundless, two to the left and one to the right, dark furred phantoms with coals for eyes. "The pack is flanking us, ready an attack," continued Liam. "We're going to move in V formation. I will take point." Dan and Yuri followed behind with Oleg. Controlled burst, conserve ammunition at all costs. "We move now." As we entered the deep snow, Bogdan and Radomir fell at Liam's elbows left and right. Ava and Timur, young hotshots who favored expanding rounds, one shot did the work of 2 or 3, took both flanks. The wolves, gray-white shapes moving through the falling flakes, kicked up snow as they ran back and forth some 50 meters away. There was now a pair on either side, moving in almost diagram progression, hungry, precise, assembling. "The first wave will be a test," said Lev, breath swelling as his eyes darted from side to side. "Wolves are a cooperative species. I've studied them. Their hunt is a method. They don't brawl, they play chess. If we see 4, that means their pack is at least a dozen, maybe more, so be patient. Timur and Ava, watch our 6. The fight's to come." As he did this, it started. 2 large males bounded toward them from the right, full speed and snarling. And almost at the same time, one of the 2 from the left, smaller and more nimble, came racing at Lev from the tip of the phalanx. No one panicked. Timur, like his brother, and a young man without fear or self-doubt, felled one of the males at 20 meters, his round impact on the top of his left foreleg, expanding, blowing the animal apart. Radomir, using standard ammunition, was a bit more patient, dropping the other male with 2 shots, first wide left, the second striking an animal at full speed, sending it somersaulting forward in a pinwheel of snow. Leaving his pistol at the lean, mangy scout, charging low across the high snow. His hands shook from the cold. He couldn't help his gloved fingers working numbly. The first shot missed short. The second shot struck the wolf, a long highway, cracking it into the animal, falling muzzle first with a yelp. The third round struck its neck, and the animal dropped amid a scarlet cloud of blood. "Spetsnaz!" roared Ava and Timur in triumph as though on a trophy hunt. The cheer sounded hollow to Lev. He watched the 4th wolf dancing back and forth in the distance before it turned off and raced off beyond the limit of their vision. "Let's go!" said Lev, resuming the march, moving double time. "Stay alert!" Ahead they stopped, high-kneeing through the snowfall, racing the falling night and the wolves' inevitable return. With the Celsius dropping, the surface of the snow had started to crest. Lev turned fast at a howl, but it was wind rather than wolf. And then he saw it. A few more steps ensured it wasn't a product of his imagination. A curving stone wall terrifically high, a circular structure fronted by an archway entrance. The presence of such a structure at this elevation made precious little sense. But no matter. The structure meant protection. A bulwark. "There it is," called out Lev. "Roughly 70 meters ahead. We can make it. Use it as a barricade." "Here they come!" said Bogdan to Lev's left. 2 more wolves appeared atop a rise in the dying light. Another beta scout raced back and forth. "I count 3, Radomir announced, but he was looking in only one direction. There were 6 total. Lev said, "Take down the leader in each group and keep moving." Radomir scored his, and the 2 other wolves howling in reaction ran in circles. Ava had trouble with his, trying to target the wolf while keeping pace with the team moving laterally. He took down his target on the 4th shot, but the delay allowed the other 2 to catch up with the group. Lev saw this too late. He spun back to fire, the charging wolves missing twice, as did the others. The wolves leapt. With a scream, Bogdan went down a ravenous swoop atop his chest, with incredible sinking his teeth into the sniper's neck. Another wolf broke ranks from the other side, targeting Oleg, springing for the kill, but Timur's shot stopped it in midair. With the rest fought off the remaining marauders, Lev fired twice at the wolf, dragging Bogdan away. It tugged him backward through the snow, its jaw clamped into the sniper's shoulder. His blue eyes had gone fixed and dim. Bogdan was dead already. Another wolf clamped his teeth into his arm. The first wolf seized the dragon as the rest of the hungry wolves pounced. The taste and warmth of human meat sent them into a frenzy. Fighting among themselves as they shredded Bogdan's clothes with their sharp claws, eagerly ripping strings of flesh and metal from his body with their strong fangs. Steam burst from Bogdan's abdomen as they eviscerated him, pink and scarlet entrails springing out into the snow. Lev sighted the pack with his quivering numb hand, then broke off aim. Abe was wasting round after round on the carnivores until Lev's shooting finally reached him. "We've got to move!" He pulled on Danny and Yuri, who were transfixed by the gory sight. "Dalton!" cried Daniel. "He's gone!" shouted Lev. "It's now or never!" The order issued. They ran ahead exhaustedly, leading through the snowfall. Lev was the first to reach the stone front of the circular ruins. He helped haul Oleg's door sled through the open archway. Ava was firing again from a crouch on his rifle steadied on his knee. Wolves with blood-smeared snouts stood apart from Bogdan's steaming corpse. They watched the man at the high stone wall, but they did not advance. The wolves growled, ears down, tails between their legs, fangs bared. One pawed the snow, eager to move forward, but seemingly prevented from doing so. Two more wolves came from the distant left, late to the hunt. They too stopped cold, a good 30 meters away. Ava said, "They're not coming. They're afraid," said Timur. "And they know I'm the best shot." Ava grunted, aimed his rifle with perfect balance, extension of his own arm, his most prized possession. One shot, half of the charging wolf's head was blown off, lower jaw dangling as the animal fell to the snow. "Let's take him out," said Timur, preparing to do so. "No," said Lev. "Save your ammunition, our ammunition. We're here to survive, not hunt." Two wolves resumed dragging Bogdan's savage corpse away into the darkness. Lev swore, surprised to hear emotions in his voice. "At least let me get those two," said Timur, "for Bogdan." Lev acknowledged the instinct, even shared it, but retribution at this point was a luxury they could not afford. "Let's not be emotional," he said as much to himself as to the others. "Let's be smart." The pack began howling, mouths tipped toward the stormy sky. Lev summoned a black wolf, the largest of the pack, certainly the alpha, one of the latecomers. The black wolf stared at the men at Lev with golden eyes. Even at that distance, with nighttime snuffing out the last of flight, Lev was convinced he saw behind the alpha's eyes fear. Not fear of Lev, fear of this place. As the howling continued, Lev said to the men behind him, "They're afraid. Afraid of something." He turned, looking at the stone archway in the darkness inside. "Maybe something inside here." The others turned to the ruins, spooked. Radimir said, "Like what?" Lev shook his head. That these stone walls existed here at all was beyond his comprehension. Never mind that somewhere something might also lurk within. "We're about to find out," he said. He looked back one more time at the black alpha wolf, whom, as the others confirmed their plaintive howling, withdrew into the night to feast and to wait. Pistol in hand, Lev started inside the stone ruins, the archway like a gaping mouth waiting to swallow them. Through the archway, the ruins comprised concentric stone walls, curving, crumbling in places. They rose as high as 12 meters, converging closer to 8, forbiddingly tall and eerie. Lev examined the stone by flashlight while the others watched for trouble. "Black granite," he said. "Silation on the base. Damn old. Centuries old," since Neil, the medic, looking over his shoulder. "Even older. There's a word for places like this." "Would someone have carried granite here?" said Lev. The answer seemed to be no. How would they transport so much stone this high up a mountain? Moan startled the operators, but it was Oleg squirming on the dented door to which he was tied. "Maybe there's a dry area, some cover where I can treat him." Lev pulled his eyes away from the leathered black stone. The next curved wall slightly lower was 10 miles ahead. They followed it to the right, soon coming upon another archway. Lev noted there was considerably less snow than the first, outermost ring of the labyrinth than outside the ruins. It's less still in the second ring. The air was no warmer, but the floor was strewn with chunks of wood and desiccated leaves. Almost no stone accumulation here, just black dead earth. Lev pointed this fact to Daniel. "Shadow," he said, "black." Daniel said, "How can this be? Why build a maze all the way up here?" wondered Radimir, the bear-like mercenary scanning the premises with his rifle. Lev torched the stonework of the archway as they passed through it. Maybe there were gates or doors here at one point. Moving leftward this time. Following the second curve wall, they discovered another archway. More cautiously now, Lev signaled to Ava and Timur, who did a tactical entry, crouching low and fanning out in either direction with their assault rifles at the ready. "Clear!" Both brothers called back. "Clear!" Their voices echoed strangely. Inside this third ring, the mountain floor was devoid of snow or even dead leaves. Wind swirled about them like voices whispering in ancient languages, but the ground was remarkably clean as much as they could see in the settling darkness. A tunnel, said Dennis suddenly. The word I was looking for, an ancient grave, on over a fallen grate, a water so notable. It's a labyrinth, said Mia. Maybe they were trying to slow down a charging enemy. Defend the car while the attackers negotiated their way in, trying to keep them out. Yuri leaned against the wall and recoiled fast. The others turned. Barely visible against the dark stone, rows of spikes hammered out of dark iron jutted from the stone, pointing inward toward the center. Or maybe, said Daniel, they were trying to keep something in. Leo shivered, feeling a tightening of his upper torso and throat. He couldn't shake it off. Anybody else having trouble breathing? Asked Yuri, his voice barely a hush. It's not the elevation. In our own voices, the acoustics were undistorting. His words clipped and flapped, but taking on a subtle echo, each one repeating as the next was spoken. Oleg's makeshift sled scraped against the bare ground, a grainy noise like a knife blade against stone announcing their presence. It would take 4 men to carry it off the ground, but they needed to keep weapons at hand. Oleg writhed in pain. Leaf said, Daniel, Yuri, we're here with Oleg. Timur too. Radmir, Ivan, and I will go up ahead. We're splitting up already? And Yuri, the interpreter, smiled nervously. Timur's got you, Lev reassured him. They continued ahead, Lev's flashlight searching for trouble. Radmir and Ava with weapons up, ready for anything. Ahead was another wall that was part of a wide stone structure, and windowless edifice at the center of the ruins. The base stones were reinforced in places by earth mounds. A few other stones, seemingly at random, were carved with spiral pattern designs. Here there was almost no wind, though it didn't appear to be simply buffeted by the outer walls. The atmosphere seemed different, the air thin and crisp, with a hint of metal on the tongue, as though they were on the verge of a static charge. Their footsteps sounded muffled and distorted like their voices, a swirling fling in effect. What is this place? Asked Lee, his voice carrying on softly, reverberating. It seemed that here in the center of the curving stone walls they had moved into another realm. Some moonlight shone through parting storm clouds above, silvering the structure, giving the stone a fleshly sheen. Get Oleg and the others, said Lev. We're going inside. Lev cracked and shook plastic glow sticks, bringing an ambient lime-colored light to the interior. Beyond another curving wall opened a vast chamber spaced by stone support columns holding up a ceiling of crumbling timber. Near the center of a chamber, a hole in the roof admitted some moonlight into a circle of flat stones. There, a low bed-like slab of stone had been constructed. Otherwise, the white space was empty, offering no indication as to its purpose or utility. Who could have built this? Asked Radimir. All that mattered to Lev at the moment was that there were no active threats inside. The bizarre behavior of the wolves remained at the forefront of his thoughts, but for the moment, they were safe. Daniel directed them to the light at the center of the chamber. Lay Oleg down there. They carried the mangled door closer to the moon's rays. Oleg was numbing, trying to sit up, making no sense. The tourniquet had turned his right lip into a dead appendage, dark flesh covered in frozen, congealed black blood. Daniel opened his medical kit, laying out what instruments he had. A surgical saw was not among them. The amputation was more to be butchery than medical procedure, which in the end might take Oleg's life rather than save it. Lev pulled Ava and Timur aside. As the newest addition to the team, neither brother knew Oleg well or Lev, for that matter. This was their chance to distinguish themselves from the usual mercenary profile of low-tide predators, efficient but disposable. Lev relieved Ava of the metal radio case. You two take a good look around, make sure we're alone. Stay together, be careful and take no risks. Check back here at 10-minute intervals. Timur looked at Oleg, lying delirious in the moonlight. Is he going to make it? Timur asked with a jerk of his head, and in the matter-of-fact tone of a man who had seen his share of battlefield injuries. He has as much chance as any of us, answered Lev. His words had the desired effect on the young gunners. Not fear, but resolve the challenge. Every operator lived his life with death as its constant shadow. Go, he told before the screaming starts. They went off, and Lev sat down with all his possessions, opening the radio case. It appeared to be in good working order. This was their only lifeline. The throwaway cell phones they had been issued for their mission was useless at this elevation. Radimir appeared at his shoulder. Why is it so temperate in here? It was only tempered in comparison to the Arctic conditions of their march from the airplane wreckage. Their breath swirled around them, but blood and feeling were returning to Leo's hands and feet. I don't have a clue. Leo turning his attention to the radio, but if it keeps us alive longer, I don't care. Ava walked with his brother to the far end of the chamber, past another curving wall portion which had collapsed as the passageway following the curve of the structure. Ava played a flashlight beam over the stones and the rotting granite-like substance that held them together. Timur showed little interest in the architecture, his rifle muzzle pointed straight overhead. A few steps around the corner led them to an open doorway, not an archway like the outside walls, but smaller. Timur ducked through it, Ava waiting behind him. A narrow stone of steps led downward. "How is this?" said Timur. "Did they also take up more space in the ground?" Ava made out a similar doorway farther down the passage. "There's another doorway." He started away. "We have to stay together," said Timur. "Maybe they meet," said Ava. "Let's find out while they play doctor. If you get off a shot, I'll hear it and come running." "Da, brat," said Timur in their short-haired parlance. "Yes, brother." Ava continued to the opening. His flashlight revealed a symbol etched in the center stove above, runic, resembling a double hashtag to vertical lines by 3 horizontal lines. The stairway was quite narrow, built by and for smaller humans of centuries ago. Ava descended slowly, flashlight beams swimming ahead, and illuminating a rightward twist in the past. 30 steps down, Ava hadn't realized he was silently counting them. When he reached the landing, he faced the lower archway, one hand to bow toward to enter. 2 mummified corpses guarded the interior space. Each was sealed in a chair of granite, attired in designated thus the man will pelt like a crude leather. Long ceremonial strips, their blades 2 mils each, lay across their laps, angled to the floor such that the lips crossed between them, and tarnished gold earrings hung from their wax-like ears. These long-dead centuries had been embalmed and arranged here for symbolic or perhaps superstitious effect. On the handles of the storage was carved the same double hashtag, which in this context now brought to Ava's mind the bars of a prison cell. The golden earrings caught his eye. Ava was a mercenary after all. He was in this for to travel. A sudden screaming turned his head. It was Oleg, his distant cries of agony echoing peculiarly. The amputation had begun. Oleg had been seen directly behind Ava in the jet. A matter of centimeters decided every man's fate. That poor bastard. Out of the wall stood more iron spikes, also pointing inward. A long-lost dungeon, thought Ava? A tomb of torture exile atop a high mountain. It made as much sense as anything. Beyond the seated guards and their crossed swords was a stone ring, a hole that Ava at first mistook for a well. Around the mouth of the hole protruded more sharp iron spikes. Ava stepped over the swords, careful not to disturb the scene, and his flashlight peered down into the dark pit. At its bottom was no more than 10 meters down, lay a large rectangular box. It looked to be fashioned of iron ringed by heavy chains and printer blocks. Ava smiled at this discovery. He envisioned gold and silver chalices and loose and cut jewels, more pleasant and lucrative than a skeletal corpse. Then again, even a dusty corpse could be valuable. Perhaps he discovered the crypt of Genghis Khan. Anything old and intact is worth something. Timur's voice came to Ava from near Oleg's cries. 10 minutes, Brock! We have to get back to check in! Ava looked around the chamber, realizing how difficultly would be to lower himself into the stone pit and open his prize. With the right tool, it should take him only a matter of minutes to see what was inside. Then he could determine his next steps. "Ava, y'all coming!" he called, surveying the scene once more. His clever man happily engaged. He went back up the narrow stairway, finding Timur at the door of the top. "What did you find?" Ava asked him. "Tunnel's nothing empty, no telling how far they go, you?" "Yeah, nothing much, no tunnels even." "We're alone here then," declared Timur. "We are not alone." Ava's mind working. "The others, they are alone, brats, we have each other." Timur smiled, clasping his brother's offered hand. Always. They started back together. Ava held his tongue about his discovery. Timur was talkative, and though his brother was eminently trustful, Ava was the more principled of the two. Ava would bring him into his confidence later, after he had some idea of what treasure awaited them in the chained iron box. Oleg's pained, echoing screams only reinforced Ava's mercenary mindset. He thought it bulked into a meal for the wild wolves, and the jet crashed and almost claimed him. It can all end in a moment. Take for yourself now what tomorrow might not give you. Ava was a good soldier, but once the mission had been blown off course, the rules changed. Their best chance for survival was to stick together, maintain traditional military hierarchy. Of this there was no doubt, and yet, if indeed the box was the Tsar's ransom, and anyone in Terminal would take it for themselves at any cost, he would be back with everyone. He was certain of it. He had to know what was inside that box.